Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new workshop with Big View. Actually, this one is going to be very special because we're going to cover a great story. But beforehand, this live stream will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it anytime, anywhere. So if you cannot stick all the way through, don't worry, it will always be recorded. Also, please let us know where are you from, where are you watching this live stream, especially if you know Big View. So right now, let's welcome Vanessa Ruck, aka the girl on the bike. So Vanessa, how are you? Welcome
Hey,
to Big View.
thanks so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here chatting away.
This is an honor. I mean, you have a great story. I mean, you went from an accident, a very painful accident, to right now to be able with overcome all your challenges, take up a camera and tell your story all the way through, to have an amazing channels all over social media and YouTube, and just an example. And all of us here would love to hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to say I'm over all my challenges. Unfortunately, I live with the body that I have and some chronic pain, but I'm certainly doing my best to get up with every day and make the most of it despite what's happened to me in my past. So, yeah, life throws us some curveballs. Let's just say that.
Well, you wanna jump in right away?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving seeing all the comments and where everybody is from. I can see San Diego in there and everything. So fantastic. Can we share my slides?
Yeah, here we go.
Amazing. Perfect. So hello, everybody. I'm Vanessa Ruck, also known as the Girl on a Bike, and I would describe myself as a motorcycle rider, racer, and adventurer. And today I'm here to talk to you about my story and journey of how I've gone from being a very normal human, just going about her life, to the point where I'm here standing in front of you, or sat in front of you with my laptop, sharing the story of how I became a racer and adventurer. Now, I'm very much addicted to life on two wheels, and it doesn't really matter what sort of motorbike it is, whether it's enduro, hard enduro, trials bike, ADV, or more recently rally. I get a lot of satisfaction and enjoyment out of life on two wheels. So you can find me on all the different social media channels as the Girl on a Bike. I'd love for you to look me up and join the journey. Here are a couple of moments from the last year that I'm particularly proud of. And I have started racing in the last couple of years. So this is me. The middle photo is me on the finish line of a race called Red Bull Romaniacs, which is kind of known to be one of the toughest hard enduro rallies in the world. And I survived and made it to the finish line. It was grueling, sweaty, hard, definitely some swear words at my bike in some of the extreme conditions in the Carpathian Mountains in Romania. Also some pictures there from me racing in rally at the Rally de Maroc in Morocco, where I was facing huge sand dunes, bigger than a couple of stories, as in building wise, like absolutely terrifying. Some of the peak temperatures in a race I did in Qatar were 45 degrees, which is quite hot to be on a motorcycle racing. Now, hashtag because I can is sort of a bit of the energy I'm trying to put out there to show that, you know, a lot is possible if you put the work and time. Now, if you look at these photos at face value, the way that a lot of the time social media can present things, it makes it look like life is very shiny, amazing, perfect, and how lucky am I getting to do all of that racing, which I am. But what I really want to emphasize here is that social media isn't always as shiny and amazing as it looks. And there's a lot of maybe misrepresentation on some channels on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. So I want you to just take a moment to realize that actually, you know what, life isn't perfect and amazing. And there's a lot behind these photos. So let's talk a little bit about what happened to me in 2014 that has brought me on the journey to being a rider. And before we go into the detail of that, let's go back a little bit further in time. So cue some like, woo, go back in time music. And let's have a look at what life for me was like prior to the accident, because it really was pretty different and gives you a little bit of an idea of quite how life-changing that day in 2014 was. And if anyone has any questions for me, please do get them in the comments, and we will look at those questions at the end. So prior to 2014, I was an absolute adrenaline junkie. I lived for sports. It was all about pushing myself physically and mentally. I was a kite surfer, so the top 2 photos were my main sport. I lived to chase the wind. I was incredibly fit. I could jump on my bicycle and cycle 100 miles just for fun, or do 3 sets of 13 pull-ups. And if I could go back in time, I wish I'd probably taken a couple more moments to appreciate quite how lucky I was with my body, because for one, it didn't hurt. Now, if we go forward to the 25th of March 2014, it was a pretty normal Tuesday. I'd finished in the office for the day. I got on my bicycle. I wasn't an active motorcycle rider at the time. Got on my bicycle and I started pedaling away down the road. I was actually on the way to the lake to meet my husband and some friends to go wakeboarding for the evening. I got about a mile down the road and traffic lights turned green in front of me. Amazing. I'm pedaling on through, and unfortunately a car coming the other way decided not to stop at their red light, and they cut straight across in front of me, leaving me with nowhere to go. And bam, like that, life as I knew it changed. Now, I wasn't a bleeding mess. I wasn't scraped up off the road by paramedics, but I did go to hospital in an ambulance and was discharged later that night with bruising. Now, if we fast forward 7 years, I'm coming up to the 8-year anniversary now, but 7 years was really the bulk of my recovery. In those 7 years, I had 7 surgeries, pretty much 1 a year, and I've now got a reconstructed right shoulder and right hip. So if you think about the diagnosis of bruising versus the actual reality of what happened to my body in that impact, it gives you a little bit more of an understanding of quite how much of a battle it's been, trying to get my body back to a point where ultimately I could be pain-free. I've had to readjust my expectations, and pain-free isn't something that's realistic for my body, but instead setting my goal on getting to a point where I can be active and at least get out there and do my best, managing the pain, but still making the most of the fact that I'm still alive. And I'm lucky enough that I am able to keep pushing on, even managing the pain. So here is a selection of photos from across the years, and there's been a lot of pain, a lot of time stuck in bed, looking at that same really annoying ceiling above my bed. One thing I quite like looking at these photos is the reoccurrence of my teddy, because no one is too old to have a teddy bear, and he was a really great comfort in some pretty dark times. So physically, I've got a reconstructed right shoulder and right hip, and the physical recovery has taken a lot of energy, months of rehabilitation, lots of time in bed, and it's been painful. But if I'm completely honest with you, the mental health recovery has actually been harder than the physical recovery. I was diagnosed with multiple mental health disorders in the aftermath of the accident. One of those was fear of the road, and another one was change disorder. So for me, change disorder led to me no longer seeing me as me. This broken, pathetic, useless body that I was in, it wasn't me. I couldn't relate to it. Vanessa was this fit, strong, capable person from before the accident, and it wasn't me. I actually talked about myself in the third person, which was incredibly strange for other people, because they were like, wait, what? Who's Vanessa? I thought you were Vanessa. And I got to a point where I realized I needed help and that I wasn't okay. And I'm really proud of myself for the fact that I got help. And I think for anyone who's battling anything, asking for help is a huge sign of strength. So I got help, and it didn't happen overnight. It certainly didn't. I wish I could say there was a magic help button, but with a lot of time and healing and processing, I got to a point where I didn't necessarily learn to love my body, but I learned to accept my body. And that acceptance is incredibly important in the process of recovery and the journey, because without accepting your situation, you really can't equip yourself to heal, to look after the body, to give it what it needs, and to work your way through that recovery. So I guess I really want to emphasize that life isn't perfect, and if we link back to the world that we sometimes see on social media, it can be very easy to reflect on our own lives and wish our life was like somebody else's, because theirs looks so perfect and amazing and shiny in their Instagram squares. But the reality is that every single one of us has battles and challenges and things that make us want to just give up and have really bad days, and it's completely normal. So when you are struggling tough times, remember that you're not alone. Everybody is battling things, and life really isn't perfect. But with some of the tools that we're going to chat through in a bit, hopefully it will help you cope with some of those situations. Basically is sort of my step for that. I mean, does anyone have any questions at this point? Would you like me to keep going? Okay, I will keep going. So this day here was a moment that was a pretty pivotal step, actually, in my mental health following the accident. So I wasn't an active motorcycle rider. I'm not going to go into detail into how I got into motorcycles because of time today. But a couple of years after the accident, some Harley-Davidsons came into the world, and I was at a point where on the roller coaster, the ups and the downs were highs where I was a little bit more active, maybe able to get onto a motorcycle, lows where I was bedbound and I couldn't. And it was up and down every year. And in one of the higher points of the roller coaster, I was able to get on a motorcycle. And so my husband and I decided to go out on Harleys, and we ended up buying 2 Harleys, which was a very big early midlife crisis as far as I sort of reflect on it. But the best decision that we've made in my mental health recovery. So this day here was huge. This was our first adventure on the Harley-Davidsons. We went about 6 miles from the house, because that's all my body could handle. But I was out of the house. So we had a barbecue, we had some wine. I'm eating courgette there, but I promise you we had some steak as well. And it was the most uplifting experience. I was out of the house. I wasn't in bed. Okay, for Vanessa pre-accident, it would have been a really lame Friday night. But for where I was in my life and the journey that I was on at that moment, it was incredible. And I felt really alive. And it was a bit of an awakening for me, because while it wasn't what I wanted to be doing, wasn't what I wish I could have in my life, actually, you know what? In that moment, I had a lot to be grateful for. And it was a new sense of gratitude and control over my own mindset that started. And then when I was back bedbound again, it helped me realize that actually, you know what, even in those really dark moments, there's always something to find to be grateful for, whether it's being able to have a nice sweet taste of mango, or listening to the birds outside my window, putting on my favorite country music, just little things that could lift my spirits just ever so slightly and help me stay a little bit more positive through the situation that I was facing. Goal setting has been a really important part of my recovery. So I think for anyone battling anything, whether it's a twisted ankle or struggles with work or being hit by a car and having major surgery, goal setting enables you to focus on striving forwards and achieving things. So I want a really quick question for the audience. Who reckons they could eat an elephant whole? It's a pretty random question. So let me know in the comments if you think you could eat an elephant whole, and I will continue and give you a little bit of an understanding as to why I'm asking you if you could eat an elephant whole. Because when I first decided to get an off-road motorcycle, this is where I was. I was bedbound. after my third surgery of 7. And I woke up one morning and I decided, I know, I want a dirt bike. And my husband was like, what? Like, look at you. Thankfully, I've got a really supportive husband. So surround yourself with supportive people who will believe in you and say yes to your crazy ideas. That's another good tip. And we went out and got me a off-road motorcycle. It was an old little Yamaha, and it was 5 months until I could even sit on it. And there were a lot of moments where I lay in that bed and I thought about riding this bike, and it was like trying to eat an elephant. I just couldn't fathom how I was going to be able to get on this bike. You know, I couldn't even walk to the toilet on my own. And so that's where big goals and little goals come into really helping you with your recovery and your achieving big things. So I had to set up some smaller goals. So things like making it to the toilet on my own, so I didn't have to pee on myself in a bedpan. Making it downstairs to have dinner, that was a really big one. I felt like a proper adult going downstairs and having dinner. Managing to put my own socks on. It's ridiculous how far away your feet are when you can't move. So I had lots of smaller goals that enabled me to have little things to celebrate and congratulate myself and feel like I was making progress. Little quick wins that could lift your spirits and stretch you and get you on your journey towards the big goals. So this was my first bike, and actually that me there was me going out and trying to wash my bike. Before I could even begin to think about trying to get on it, I'm stood there with my crutches. But for me mentally, that was huge, because I was doing something that was making me feel like I was progressing, like I was there on my journey. So goal setting is a really important part of keeping yourself motivated, giving yourself things to celebrate, and helping you strive forwards in those moments where you're just lying there feeling like everything is impossible. Because there were certainly days where I did not have the energy to even contemplate trying to get out of bed, or I hurt too much to want to do my physio. But that bike was sat there as a reminder of what I was working towards, and it really helped me. It also made me realize that you are the only one that has the power to take control of what you need to do. Even if I was a multi-million-dollar football player, I don't know why I'm thinking of football, but someone with a lot of money and support behind them, even on that level, they couldn't pay someone to do their physio. You have to get up and do the work yourself, and it applies so much in life. Yes, there's a huge support network out there, and that there's people we can ask for help from, but at the end of the day, we need to get up and do the work ourselves. So that picture in the top, in the middle there, was me getting rid of my own excuses. So for 3 months after each one of my 5 hip surgeries, I had to go to the swimming pool for 20 minutes, 6 days a week. And the swimming pool was freezing. Like, I'd do my icing, which is the picture on the right here, and I'd be freezing cold. I'd had to ice for half an hour 7 times a day. So I'd get up, I'd ice, and then I had to go to the swimming pool and walk in the pool for 20 minutes. And I was just too cold. I didn't want to do it. So I then thought, you know what? Get rid of your excuse, wear your wetsuit. And I was that crazy blonde girl walking up and down for 20 minutes every morning in the swimming pool, and I got some crazy looks. But you know what? I didn't care, because it doesn't matter what other people thought. What was important was that I was doing what I needed to do for my recovery. I was getting rid of the excuses, and I was doing the work. And so it's really important to remember that if you want to reach your goals, you need to get up each day. And even if it's a tiny step, but do something towards them. Ask for help when you need it. Surround yourself by good people that believe in you and will support you. But you really need to do the work at the end of the day. And I'm not going to go through all of the different surgeries and the ups and downs, because it would get a little bit boring. But you get the idea that I had a lot of surgeries. So this was me back in bed again. And each time I was back in bed, having found my love for life on 2 wheels, I was really determined to try and get back out riding and find ways to make that happen. So changing the style of riding, practicing things in the garage. I know after one of my surgeries, for 2 months before I was able to take the step of actually turning the engine on, I just went out to the garage and stood on my motorcycle. And it sounds so lame. But for my brain, I was on a bike. And actually, by standing and practicing to balance on the bike, my husband would hold the front and be ready to catch it. And I just practiced balancing. It was really good core stability for my rehab. And actually, once I then started riding again, having got to a point where I could balance on the bike stationary for 15 minutes, which was my personal best, I'm quite proud of that, it helped me with my riding because my balance was so much better. So I was using that downtime and making it feel like I was making progression. And so I had lots of surgeries. Teddy was always with me, which was a huge help. And I want to really drive the importance of the fact that you need to drive your own change. It can be very easy to have self-pity and feel sorry for yourself and want to give up. But if you give up, it's the end. You just got to try and find a little bit of energy, find little things to put smiles on your face, set some goals, and really try and drive your own change. So how does video come into all of this? I suppose it's probably worth having a little bit of a chat backwards and forwards to how video is being an important part of sharing my story. So I started my social media channels when I was bedbound after one of my head surgeries. I'll be completely honest with you, I wasn't in a good place mentally. I was very much struggling with the situation that I was in, and I started them in the hope that I might be able to find some other people going through some battles, and maybe we could help each other. Maybe we could share what we've learned. And I then started posting initially photos of me prior to the accident. So look how cool I used to be. I could snowboard and kite surf and do all this stuff. And then I ran out of photos and was like, oh, what do I do now? I can't exactly make anything cool now. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to be real. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to share exactly what I'm going through. And that is where I've started to use photo and video to share the journey. I've shared the ups and the downs, the challenges, the days where I'm actually crying and I can't process the pain and I want to give up. And I've also shared, the days where I've been working hard and I've actually reached my goals and I've had a good day and I've won a race or something like that. So it's about sharing the reality. And I think videos really helped me do that, because with the power of an iPhone, I use an iPhone, an Insta 360 and a GoPro. I've been able to have the ability to capture wherever I am, on the back of a bike, muddy in Iceland. The content creation has been possible, and I've been able to share the realities of what I'm going through. Even out in the desert in Qatar, I've been able to capture those moments through the technology that we have now. So I can see some questions have come in. So let me get to some of your questions, because I'm conscious of time. I'm very bad at being able to just ramble on chatting. So I will get to your questions. So what was the trigger that prompted me to ask for help? Being in a very, very sad, lonely place. I was hurting, I was angry, I was bitter, and I realized that that wasn't a healthy way to go. I was also having incredibly bad night terrors. I think the night terrors were one of the biggest factors. I'd wake up screaming multiple times through the night, absolutely freaked out, which wasn't too pleasant for my husband. And while I tried very hard to get through it on my own, I realized that actually this was deeper than I could process, and my body wasn't going to suddenly go back to how it was before. I needed to find a way to move forwards with the situation that I was in. So I think that's probably the key trigger I had. Have we got any other questions?
Actually, I mean, there's no other specific questions, but people told us that you were doing great, and also we got somebody that has also a story about an accident that I was happy to also talk about and say that the mental health support is crucial.
Mm. Okay, so how do I cope being so open and vulnerable on social media? That's a really good question. I would say I feel like I'm very lucky in that I have some incredible followers. I want to touch wood because I don't want to suddenly jinx it. I haven't had too many situations with trolling or anything like that. I suppose there's an element of maybe because I am so open, it's a little bit harder for people to be attacking back at me, maybe. But I'm not going to lie that I definitely feel vulnerable sometimes. And I think the fact that I get messages from people with how much it's helped them, seeing that they're not the only one that goes through these battles, helps me find the strength to share it in some ways. And if me sharing what I'm going through, what I've been through, what I continue to go through, helps other people, there's a huge element for me mentally and emotionally that it makes what I've gone through feel so much more worthwhile. It's almost like, well, maybe I needed to go through this so that I could help other people. And so there's an element of it helps me find strength knowing that it helps other people find strength. Kind of feel like that sounds a little bit strange, but in my mind it makes sense.
So how are you, Vanessa? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see if we have more questions coming up. I think everybody, I mean, she says thank you for sharing. Um, is there another slide that you want to share with us?
Um,
Or, or this is the,
well, we're aiming for half an hour. So, I mean, I can always talk more, but I was conscious that I didn't want to start rambling on because I can do that quite easily.
just, I have actually one question, and maybe we can move to here. And so people, maybe can understand through process through video. You say that, you use your smartphone, and this is how the way you did all your videos, but actually only with your smartphone you were able to actually condense and make all your videos for all these channels.
Yeah, the majority of my content that you see on Instagram or Facebook is all filmed with my iPhone. So I've got the 13 Pro Max. My brother is a cinematographer and incredibly high level. So most of you will have seen his films. He's done Disney films, all kinds of things. And I went to him a few years ago and I was like, right, brother, I want a good camera. What should I get? And he said, get the camera that will always be in your pocket. And he said, get yourself a really good iPhone because actually, and over the last few years, the quality of the camera on this has improved so much. But for the sort of content that I'm sharing, it's about being able to, sorry, the dog's going to join because then she won't bark. Because then you will be able to capture those moments the second it happens. And so often in the sort of writing and situations that I'm in, if you had to stop and set up big camera setups, the moment would have gone.
You lose
And
the moment, yeah.
cameras are a huge part of that. So being able to just bolt on the GoPro and the Insta 360 more recently, it enables me to capture the content as you're riding along, because obviously with an iPhone I couldn't ride along with the iPhone.
Amazing, amazing. And when you, for example, you ride, you use some GoPros.
Yeah, So more recently, I've got the Insta 360 camera, which does take a lot more time on the editing side of things. But when you are able to capture what is going on in every direction, 360 in the name, it means that you never miss something. And it's actually an incredible new way of being able to edit, where if you watch my most recent Pan America Wales adventure, which went live yesterday on my YouTube channel, there are moments where you can see I'm riding along and then it will like pan round and you can see the dirt and the puddles behind me and then flick round to the other bike following me. And it's much more like visually engaging, feel like you're with me sort of riding footage. And I'm really enjoying what you can do with the 360 cameras.
Amazing. I mean, all of you can follow the girl on the bike on YouTube. She has amazing content. I much recommend to go watch it, especially if you like bikes. And that was amazing. So Vanessa, thank you very much for coming. We actually got a question. Insta 360 camera. What was the name of the camera?
The brand is Insta360 and it's the One X. If you go to one of my YouTube videos, there should be a link to it in the description as well, if that helps you not having to search for it online.
Amazing. So thank you very much, Vanessa. It was a very inspirational story. Keep going what you do. I know especially do videos, and all the people that are here watching, use Big View to tell your story, because there's no better way. And so thank you, Vanessa. Thank you very much for taking this opportunity with us and being able to talk in our live stream. And we're very glad to have you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. And my inbox is always open if anyone has any questions and wants to say hi afterwards. So thanks for having me.
Amazing. And bye to everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next workshop. Bye bye.